So right now, I'm becoming a director of football at each of the Premier League teams to conduct their summer transfer business, hopefully in a realistic sort of fashion. Today's a big one because they are a massive team who, quite frankly, well, they sucked last year. It's Manchester United. I'm going to do their transfers for the summer before handing back the matchday responsibilities to Ruben Amorim and seeing if he can go and, well, do better than last year. Come on. Alright then, welcome back to the channel. We're doing Manchester United on their own today because, one, there's so much to talk about when it comes to United after that season they've just had. But mainly, number two, United always do well in videos. So we're going to do them as a standalone video. And we're going to start, before I've done any transfers, we're going to start from this point here. I've loaded in Ruben Amorim's 3-4-2-1 type system, and I've put in place the players that I think will possibly start in those positions. Now, that is obviously up for debate. The big one on this that you might be looking at is, will Amad Diallo play as a right wing back? Possibly not. Will he want to be one of the starting players, though? I think so. Will Amorim and the fans want him to be in the team? Probably. But all of those things probably don't quite add up if they're going to bring in the players that I think they're going to this summer. So for now, it's a bit of a punt, but I do wonder if he's going to use Amad Diallo as a right wing back. I feel like he can do it, and it is a way to get him into the team. So we will see. And of course, this is all subject to change because there's a lot of football to play next season and injuries and things like that happen, obviously. For now, though, I've gone with this. No goalkeeper right now because I think there's a discussion to be had around Andre Onana. I am going to go out on a limb and say I think he's going to stay this summer. I don't think they'll do business at goalkeeper unless they can move on Andre Onana. And the most recent rumblings and rumours seem to be suggesting that he wants to stay and fight for his place, which I think actually just means they might just have to persevere with him in goal. However, we'll have a conversation about that because I do think in an ideal world they would want to upgrade on him. It's not really worked for Onana, and it is a shame actually. I think he looked brilliant when he was at Inter, and I think on paper it represented a good move for United. It's just not quite worked, has it? The defence, though, I think they are a bit more settled here. When Martinez is back from his injury, I think he will take up this left-sided role. I think they'll go with De Ligt in the middle, and then Yoro has really come into his own in that second half of the season. I think they've got a really great player there. By the way, have you seen some of the more recent pictures of Lenny Yoro? There was one photo where he was alongside Paul Pogba over the summer, and he was dwarfing over Pogba, and Pogba's 6'3". I think, what's he listed in game here? He's listed as 6'3". I reckon he's grown. And I think that'll be talked about at the start of the season. I reckon we're looking at a 6'4", 6'5" defender there who could really be Rolls Royce. I think they've got themselves a really good player there. So he'll start here. There is the conversation as well that Harry Maguire might start in one of these three roles. Again, it will chop and change, won't it? Lindelof has also departed this summer, so there is maybe more of a role in there for Harry Maguire, and I think he'll stick around. They're also going to lose. We're also going to see no more Johnny Evans in that defence as well, which is still to say that they were playing Johnny Evans in 2025. It's still a bit wild to me, but we move. This is Manchester United we're talking about. I've gone for these three, and then in front of those, I've put Casemiro and Fernandes in there. There was links, obviously, with Fernandes to leave the club at the start of the summer. I think he's going to stay. I think at this point it feels likely. I reckon they're going to use him a little bit deeper because of the business that I think it seems like they're going to do in the midfield spots rather than as one of these 10s that they like to use. I think the way to get him in the team is here. He is their best player. Bruno Fernandes is Manchester United's best player, I think. However, I still don't quite know what his role is in an Amorim system, which is why there is a conversation to be had about him leaving. I think there was a conversation about him leaving because I think the manager, the team in charge of recruitment probably know this and they could get serious money for him. However, he's opted to stay, and I think overall I think that is good news. However, where do you fit him in? I'm not quite sure, especially when you've got players like Kobbie Mainoo who probably need to be playing football. Mason Mount, where does he fit in? And then on the other side of the midfield, you've got Casemiro, who I've put in, who I actually think is still viable in a Ruben Amorim system. I know that might be unpopular in 2025, but I think he actually might be one of the more reliable players. I know also, though, a lot of United fans were getting a bit more excited about Manuel Ugarte towards the end of the season. So again, it could be him starting in there. I'm doing the recruitment for the team, just kind of putting in who I think's going to be in there. And then from there, it's going to be up to the manager who he actually picks in each position, isn't it? So I wanted to make that really clear in the conversation that we were having here. But now I've put these two in the midfield with Dorgu at left wing back, who I think is now a guaranteed starter. Luke Shaw is still around, but is he going to be fit to play football at any point? Who knows at this stage. And then in front of them, I've left two gaps here. I've put Matheus Cunha in. I think he will be a starter. They've signed him already this summer. And then I think they're going to go and recruit for a second striker and also the main number 9. Now, we're going to go and do those transfers there. I'm going to go and look at the market, decide who I'm going to go for, look at the realistic links that are out there as well, and also decide whether I bring in any extra players to make up the rest of the squad. Our aim is to finish above 15th, although I will say this is Football Manager. Even though they finished 15th last year, they are predicted to finish 4th in the league in game. So actually, for this to be a success, I think we actually need to finish in the top 4. I actually think with a few transfers, we could probably challenge for the title because of the way that Football Manager is. Now, that's probably not reflective of real life. It would be a real shock if United went on a title charge this season, wouldn't it? However, real life and Football Manager doesn't always align properly, especially when it comes to Manchester United, it seems. So we're just going to leave it to the manager, who, by the way, I have put in as the assistant manager in the game. Look, he is listed as the assistant so that I can hand over all responsibilities for him. And we're just going to go and see how the team does once I've done the transfers. So we go do some transfers. First, though, I need to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and it is, of course, Surprise Shirts. Surprise Shirts are the #1 rated surprise shirt provider, and will be able to supply you with a fantastic mystery surprise football shirt that is 100% authentic, guaranteed. You just need to pick the size and whether you want the FM edition box. That means that the shirt that you receive will be of a club that is definitely playable in the FM24 base game, as well as using the slider to decide how obscure you want the shirt to be. You got the choice of a one-time purchase, in which case you can use the code 10Clayts to get 10% off, or you could subscribe and get a shirt every month, which would save you about 11% overall. Plus, use the code 20Clayts, get yourself 20% off that option. We love surprise shirts here at the Clayts YouTube channel, and a big thank you to them for sponsoring. Let's get back to this transfer business. All right then, so this is my summer transfer business for Manchester United. I've kept it sort of small on the incomings, or the number of incomings anyway. I've tried to be realistic about this, and obviously there's a lot of links to some of these players anyway, but I'll talk you through my process in a second. I want to start with the outgoings. Now, ignore Patrick Dorgu and Matheus Cunha on here. That's, again, because of the database, the way that it works. Cunha hasn't already. I've not already sold him, don't worry. He's come in. I have sold the following players, and I think United would obviously love to do this. Whether it's actually possible remains to be seen. But I've sold Anthony. I think it's most likely that he goes to Betis. He seems happy to take a pay cut to go there. He's had the successful loan spell with them, hasn't he? They can recoup anything like 25 million for Anthony. I think that would be a success for Manchester United at this stage. So I've sent him there. I've also shipped out Jadon Sancho. He's gone to Fenerbahce, who I've seen have been linked with him this summer. I'm not quite sure where he ends up. It could be Turkey. And to be honest, if they get 10 million for Sancho, after Chelsea paid 5 million to not have to buy him, I think that's probably about his value. Hopefully, for United's fans' sake, he goes for a bit more. Maybe, hopefully as well, he can get his career back on track, because it's not really worked for Sancho since he's moved back to England from Dortmund, has it? And then finally, it looks most likely this week as I record this, there's all the controversy about Garnacho's social media post wearing the Rashford Villa shirt. It looks ever more likely that he's going to be sold. Chelsea have been there looking at him. There was that conversation about whether they do Nkunku or Garnacho. That's come back up into conversation recently. I don't think United will want Nkunku, which is why I've not done that aspect of the transfer. However, Chelsea are difficult to read, difficult to predict. So if they were to move for Garnacho, even though it looks like they're going to go and sign Bino Gittins and other wingers this summer, if they move to Garnacho, I don't think it would be a surprise. And I think about 45 million, maybe a little bit more. United fans, you might be thinking maybe they can get a bit more for Garnacho, but I reckon it's in this ballpark. And I think United are willing to sell him this summer. So he's gone out. The one that I really struggled with was the final one here, Marcus Rashford. Now, I think he's going to leave United. It doesn't feel like there's a way back in. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I just don't really know where he goes. It seems like he's got his mindset on this Barcelona move. However, they look like they're going to sign Nico Williams to go and play in the role that they'd probably use Rashford in. And I don't think they can afford to do too much else, Barcelona. So where does that leave Marcus Rashford? I think it might leave him maybe with another loan. And I wonder if that is the way that this kind of gets, I was going to say sorted, but not really sorted, temporarily sorted this summer, because I don't really see him compromising on the level of club that he wants to go and play for. And it seems like he's got his eye on this Barcelona move. Let's see if it transpires. But I do think he will be exiting the club this summer, which is a lot of wages off. Actually, it's a nice bit of money recouped as well. Anthony, Sancho, Garnacho, Rashford, with some of the free transfers that have already left. Players like Johnny Evans and Lindelof, etc., etc. There is money to go and spend for United. They always spend money, don't they? And they always do spend money. And they've already spent money this summer on Matheus Cunha. I've gone for these three as my options. Now, Bryan Mbeumo, it looked like he was very likely to join Manchester United. Then Spurs seemed to come into the conversation with after Thomas Frank was appointed as their manager. It looks like he's given his preference to United again, which I think would be, it's a real coup of a signing this summer for them. Because on paper, you kind of look at actually where they finished in the league and think, is that a sideways step? But actually, Manchester United, they do have this pulling power. They are a massive club. And if Mbeumo's grown up supporting them, you see why players still want to go there. I know that that's sort of one of those things that people say on social media. United are still massive. That is not up for debate here. And they will still be able to attract top players, even in spite of the context, the situation they've put themselves in now with no Champions League football. And I mean, they finished 15th, didn't they? I think this one's going to happen, and I think Brentford are holding out for as much money as possible. So I reckon it will get done for about £70 million all in. It might be 60 million plus add-ons, that type of thing. But I've put it through on here as about £70 million, and that would be my prediction. I think he is going to come in and play in this spot here, the shadow striker spot behind the striker, which you may have noticed. Now, let's go to striker first. I've bought Victor Gyökeres for Manchester United in my realistic rebuild. And I know that some of you, potentially non-United fans, are going to be like, there's no way that they can get him. He's going to go to Arsenal. He's going to go to, you know, insert club here. Yeah, this is kind of what I mentioned earlier on in the video. This is one of those where big teams are looking for strikers this summer. There's a list of strikers that seem to be the ones that there's going to be a bit of a merry-go-round with. You have Victor Gyökeres at the top of that list. You have Benjamin Sesko. You have Alexander Isak if you want to be really punchy. Liverpool, I'm looking at you for that one. You also then have Hugo Ekitike, as well as some other names on there too. I considered players like Moise Kean, for example, as well. However, I actually have a weird feeling that Gyökeres is going to end up at United. I think the following is going to happen. I think Liverpool try their hardest to sign Alexander Isak and either succeed on that and sign him this summer, which would be lovely, but improbable is probably where I'm going to put that. Or they go for Hugo Ekitike, who I think they see as their backup. If they don't do Ekitike, they probably just wait and don't sign anybody. Out of our list, then that leaves Gyökeres, Sesko, and Ekitike still on the market. I think Arsenal will do Sesko. So that leaves Gyökeres and Ekitike. I think Ekitike would lean towards a move to a team like Liverpool rather than United, whereas Gyökeres, I can kind of see it working. There is, of course, the link with Ruben Amorim, and he's had success under this manager before. And like I've mentioned before, United are a massive team. To me, it just feels like if certain blocks fall into place, Gyökeres goes to United this summer, and it's about £60 million, isn't it? He's apparently got this agreement with the club that if a bid comes in of about 51 plus 9, he can go, even though he's kind of arguing with the club about that at the moment. I'm going to go out there and say that I think this is going to happen this summer. If not, maybe Ekitike, not sure. Or maybe somebody like Moise Kean, they go elsewhere to look for their striker. So I think on the first day of the Premier League season, I think their attack will look something like this. I think it'll be Victor Gyökeres, Matheus Cunha, and Bryan Mbeumo as their front three. And I think that's very exciting, especially when you think about how it'll actually look. You'll see Mbeumo drifting inside. You'll maybe see Cunha and Fernandes picking up those number 10 spots. You'd see Diallo joining in, Dorgu joining in, and you'll see like Yoro playing those balls into that front three, you know, with the space that you'll have as this wide. I can see it on the pitch. I can see that how it's going to work. Let's come back to this on day one of the Premier League season and see, is this anywhere near what actually transpires, you know, barring things like injuries, like Martinez might not be back by that point, etc., etc. There is one final transfer that I've done, though, and that is the signing of Emi Martinez. Now, Emi Martinez looks like he's going to leave Villa this summer. It looked like a tearful goodbye at the end of the season, didn't it? He's linked with Manchester United. He's linked with some Saudi teams. He was linked with Barcelona, but they've gone for Joan Garcia now, so it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I am not sure that this is going to be a thing, because I think it might actually be dependent on Onana leaving, as I mentioned before. I have a feeling that Onana will stay, so maybe the Emi Martinez deal doesn't happen. However, I thought it's more fun in a video like this to do it, and let's see which goalkeeper Amorim picks in the side. So maybe it will look a little bit like this. I've got Onana on the bench. I think if this was to happen, I think you'd have to see Onana be sold. But this is Football Manager, and this is what we're here to speculate and chat about, isn't it? So this is my team that I'm now going to hand back all of the responsibilities of to Ruben Amorim, and we're going to go and see how he gets on. Let's see, actually, has that changed our predicted finish for the season? Still predicted to finish 4th. Let's go until about January and see how he starts the season. Okay, here we are then at the end of December. I did fear this may be the case. This is Football Manager for you, and I've done as much as I possibly could, really. I've taken away all of my input on this. I've given it back to Amorim, but United can be quite good in Football Manager, especially if you add Gyökeres to their attack, if you add Bryan Mbeumo to their attack as well. They become really good. Gyökeres, look, is the top goal scorer for us with 11 goals. United, at about the halfway point, are top of the league. They're actually 7 points clear of Chelsea, who are in second. Brentford are in 4th, look. Who have Brentford got as their manager then? They brought in Ange. Okay, in real life, they've gone for Keith Andrews, which, by the way, seems like a really interesting one for me, but it's an internal appointment, a bit like Thomas Frank was. They've gone for Ange. That is a very weird... Spurs took their manager, so they've just decided to take Ange, apparently. He's doing very well. He's 4th in the league with them. Who Who's not in this top? Who's dropped down from here then? We've got City in 6th, Arsenal in 7th. Newcastle are down in 14th, which is a big drop off. And somehow United are top of the league. Let's have a look at how they are doing then. If I just do let's just do a best 11 and see what would be picked here. It's gone for Fernandes in the midfield, maybe with Mainu here. Look, let's have a look at some of the stats on here. We do have some unhappy players who want new deals because of their good form. I'll go and sort those things out in January because obviously I don't want that to impact on the way that the sim is going, of course. Although at the moment it doesn't seem like that is the case because it's going very well, isn't it? Top goal scorer is Gyökeres. Cunha's got 6. Bruno's got 8. In terms of goals scored. And then let me do this to see. And then let's have a look at the assists on here. Who's picking up most of the assists? Nasser Mazraoui from right back is picking up a fair few assists as well, which is cool to see. Let's have a look at those results. How are they doing? Most recently, they've just beaten Sunderland 6-0. Look, they beat Newcastle 3-0, drew with City away from home at the Etihad, beat Spurs, lost to Arsenal. How do they do against? They beat Liverpool, look. 2-0, Gyökeres and a Joe Gomez own goal in a 2-0 win at Old Trafford. I mean, it's a good start to... I don't know what else to... I don't really know what else to say. It just looks like a really good start to the season. They haven't entered... Oh, no, they have. They've gone out of the League Cup. They lost to Fleetwood. That's a bit more like it. And they lost 1-0 in that game. They've got the FA Cup starting in a couple of games' time. I think I will probably just do some contract stuff rather than any transfers during this window, unless there is like a big injury to somebody here. Tyrell Malacia is still not back, but actually everybody else is back around the squad. By the way, I did go through and promote some players like Aidan Heaven and Harry Amass and put them into the first team squad as options, as they would be in real life, and ignore Marcus Rashford on here because he wouldn't be in the best 11 because he's actually not at the club anymore. How's he doing at Barcelona, by the way? Looks like he's scored some goals. He's not a starter though. 2 starts, 3 goals for them. 5 goals all competitions. I mean, he's doing okay. Actually, I am now intrigued. How are the other players that we've sold doing? How's Garnacho doing at Chelsea? They've given him the number 9 and he's got 4. He's actually started quite well. He's got 4 in 9. Not starting every game, but is scoring goals and contributing. What about Sancho at Fenerbahce? He has played 10 games, scored 1 goal, not played great, and is injured at the moment. What is the injury? Is it a bad one? He's twisted his ankle. And then finally, Anthony at Real Betis. How's he doing? All right, he's playing games and he's doing okay. Not amazingly. 2 goals, 2 assists for them. Let's, I guess, continue from here. Find out whether this squad that I've built can maintain this title-winning form. Can Ruben Amorim win the title in his first full season in charge with just a few transfers completed? I mean, I don't see it happen in real life, but stranger things may or may not have happened. Let's go now till the end of the season. Okay, then they did it. They won the league. This is ridiculous, kind of really ridiculous, but also maybe it goes to show that there is actually a decent squad here at Manchester United, and it just needs a little bit of time. I don't know. I feel like I'm not even convinced myself when I say that. This is FM. These players technically are really good. It just can't take into account the Manchester United curse that happens when a player is bought. For example, Rasmus Højlund. I have kept them around, by the way, the strikers here. Xerxes and Højlund are here. I didn't really talk about that because I brought in Gyökeres to come and play. And now I think Xerxes could play a little bit deeper, and I think Højlund is going to be the backup. But Højlund is a great example of the United curse. They are really highly rated, and you think they're going to be really good, and then they sign for Manchester United, and they are then rubbish. It happens. Will that happen to the new signings here? Would Brian Mbeumo go from being such a brilliant player for Brentford to being sort of just not very good for Manchester United? Matheus Cunha, what will become on him? FM can't do that, can it? Let's do a quick pick here to see. Let's do the best 11 on here to see some of these stats of these players. FM just thinks they're really good, and then they play really good. Like Victor Gyökeres has got 20 goals, 38 games. Bruno Fernandes from number 10 has got 18 goals. He's second top goal scorer. Cunha got 14 in 40 games. Look, stayed very available for the entire season, didn't he? Just looking at some of these stats of these players on here. Any big standouts for assists? Mazraoui got 11. Dalot got 11 from left wing back, which is maybe a bit of a surprise. And actually, Cunha got 10 assists with his 14 goals in there as well. They've managed to win the league then. How close was it at the end of this season? It was a 1-point season. Wow, Man City did get themselves back up the table. It was a very low scoring season. 8 losses, 7 draws. Look, dropped points in 15 games. 123, 76 points. Imagine winning the league on 76 points. Those would be the days, wouldn't they? Liverpool in 3rd, maybe going into that final day to be able to win the league then if United had lost. Nope, that's not true because United did lose. They lost 4-0 in the final day, on the final day. They lost 4-0 on the final day of the season and then lost the FA Cup final to Liverpool. I mean, it went sort of badly. They also lost 4-0 to City not that long ago. Maybe that's why the gap at the top closed up a little bit. They also lost 3-0 to Liverpool here, look. Not quite as good of a second half of the season then. Oh, look at that. And Kunku scoring in a 4-0 win. Cunha sent off in that game. Let's have a look at the cups then. So FA Cup, they got to the final and lost. Doesn't look like... And then, oh yeah, and of course, they're not in Europe. And we know what happened to them in the EFL Cup. So actually, very much was just the league. But they ended up winning that league title. Average rating, best player in the league, Nusra Mazraoui. That would be quite a shock, wouldn't it? Ugarte in third as well, look. 11 assists for both Dalot and Mazraoui was the most in the entire league as well. That's very cool. Right, Football Manager's done Football Manager things there, but I think there was a really good conversation about the transfers and actually the squad building aspect of Manchester United. Let's go and do some more teams. Let's continue this series. Which teams do you want to see next? Do you want to see Spurs, maybe as a standalone video like this one, or maybe group them in with a few teams at once? Let me know who you want to see next, and I do want to just keep working my way through this because one of my favourite things, talking transfers with you guys. I also want you guys to join in with the conversation too. I know that United will split opinion, so let me know what your thoughts are and join in the conversation in the comments down below. Also, subscribe to the channel because it'd be nice for you to do that. Like the video too so that it does well in the algorithm, and also check out Surprise shirts because they are class. So yeah, see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye!